Agree with Alan Greenspan, we ought to just eliminate the debt ceiling. Oh, absolutely, we do.
The ability of almost every working American to access more credit than they should have been able to masked the underlying fact that lower and middle class incomes were not rising.
That's not a tenable strategy. Isn't now the time to eliminate it? Oh, we've been a long time ago.
Let's put aside terrorism. Let's talk only about our own homegrown animals that are patrolling America right now. So it goes down to the simplest thing. Be prepared, be vigilant.
Behind the police officers. She taught me that headlines are fleeting. Courage lasts. My dad taught me that success in life has very little to do with success. Kindness, he showed me, is a great virtue. He showed me, too, that there are few places closer to God than walking in the wilderness or wading a trout stream. Even if it is an awfully long drive home with the family dog after he encounters a skunk. And my grandparents.
So we're on a steady trajectory to war with Russia. Yet all this nation wants to argue about, the highest representatives of this nation are arguing over a man who loves the country. They have yet to figure out that there are going to be people with opposing views in a government, and that's the way we want it. It's not the other way around. So while the weaklings at the highest levels of government are discussing the nuclear option, Putin and his top advisors are also discussing the nuclear option, the real nuclear option, not the little game that they're playing on Capitol Hill right now, attempting to stop a man who loves this country. Whether you agree with him or not, you see, that's the problem. Whether you agree with his views, his view of the world, how he may make decisions in the Supreme Court, at the end of the day, you're dealing with an American who loves his nation. And yes, you're not going to get a royal flush on the Supreme Court no matter what side you're on, and you shouldn't want that. That's not what this country's about. Now, it might be cool to fly a flag of conservatism or a red flag of the Republican Party or a blue flag of the Democrat, whatever. But that's not how this government works. That's not the way it's supposed to work. But you keep watching the puppets, the puppet show, the Gorsuch, the Lindsay Lohans, the this, the that. What else? What else is the big news? I don't know. They're big news stories. Pepsi and one of the Kardashians or something to that effect. I don't know. I see these things in passing when I open my web browser. They're horrible. I am doing this show in the vehicle, and little Jacob is joining us on this show. Why? Because we're going to talk a lot about the future here. We're going to talk a lot about his life. Right? Because a Russian war is going to affect his life, probably more than it will affect mine in the long term. Okay, so when you hear him in the background, I want you to wrap your head around that idea. Yes, the children are with us. The children are always with us. In every decision we make, the children are looking on, right? Wondering. They don't even understand the depths. We don't even understand the depths of these decisions. But what we saw, in case you haven't noticed, in case you haven't got the word, Donald Trump, without Congress, has decided to use a drone to attack a Syrian airbase. Okay? It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It also, just side note, it comes on the anniversary of our inclusion in World War I. Right? Maybe one day off, depending on time zones. I'm not familiar with, I don't know what time it is over on their side of the planet. But it very close proximity to our inclusion in World War I, almost to the date. Right? This is a big deal. Why is this a big deal? Do I have to say why it's a big deal? Because we thought we'd get away with this. We thought we'd get away from this, rather, with Hillary. We thought the war with Russia would be a dissipating thing, right? We thought ties would get better and that maybe we'd compromise and do our little part in putting an end to this conflict in Syria. But instead, we've taken the same line that Obama took, backing the rebels. Why? Because we have this is what we all worried about with Trump, right? What we all worried about with Trump was his ability to go to war based on a blow to his ego. At least that's what I worried about. I always worried about war. I always said in the days leading up to the election, my concern with him is war because of the ego, right? Trump's ego can get us in serious problems. Serious problems, right? You listen to that little charming little voice in the back seat. That's what's at stake. Don't you get it? That is what's at stake. What we're doing here is we're applying some form of morality to this sarin gas. How do I best put it? We have a death scale in this nation and in our little heads, right? We have this idea that one way of dying is far superior to the other ways of dying, right? Okay, well, if children get shot down by stray bullets or if children get bombed to pieces or burnt alive in collapsing structures, we can live with that. But don't you dare drop this poison gas on people. You hear me? Just to get the numbers out in front, we have 86,000 civilians dead, more now, but as of yesterday when I was doing the research, 86,000 civilians dead at the hands of this civil war. 86,000 people have met their end at bombs and bullets, but our leadership hasn't even flinched until we see the gas, until they put up the three-letter word. They say the gas word, things get crazy. Oh, I don't know about this gas. The gas, frightening. People are dying. Take a position. That's all. If we simplified this thing, just because the UN or whatever it is, the Europe, whoever, I don't know, NATO, whatever, whoever made the decision that, chemical weapons, no, we can shoot each other to death and no problem. Drop bombs indiscriminately, who cares? But don't be using those chemical weapons now, you hear me? I mean, how hilarious and broken is that ideology? Show up, shoot each other, IEDs, bombs, missiles, machetes to the head. Don't you dare play with those chemical weapons, though. So we have this, we're making decisions on this imaginary scale of death. This scale of death where we're measuring, well, it's okay for kids to die that way, but it's not okay for kids to die this way. We want to be very clear about how people die and which way we decree is the right way. War is big business, folks. War is big business, and when those Tomahawk missiles went flying from that drone into the Syrian airbase, you've got to understand that some people, your fellow Americans out there, started licking their lips. Your representatives up there with kickbacks from the military providers. I wanted to say industrial complex, but it stinks. It's an old word and it's an ugly word, and it makes sense, but people overuse it. They started licking their lips. They're thinking about the kickbacks. They're thinking about the lining of the pockets. They're thinking about what kind of money. John McCain, right? Out of his mind. Warmongering beast, excited over the fact that we have yet another war to look forward to. More men to be thrown into the grinder like male baby chicks, right into the buzzsaw of war. This is a serious day in American history. These Tomahawk missiles could change everything. Don't you understand? Now, we will win in a war against Russia. And if you haven't listened to my show before, I'm sorry to hear that, but I have gone over the military abilities of both countries. And you've got to understand there's this huge disparity here, right? That said, it doesn't mean we should do it. It doesn't mean we want to lose the people. We're going to lose people. There's no getting around that. And there's always nukes. There's always missile systems that could devastate millions of people over a Syrian civil war. That's how these things start, right? They're little embers that burn. But we're making these decisions off of hurt feelings, We're making these decisions to send drones without our say-so. See, we need to get to a point where the people have a say-so in the wars that they fight. This idea that our representatives can do it, no. You put the war up to a vote, and we get out of these conflicts. There is no Russian conflict. There is no Syrian conflict. There is no Iraqi conflict. If it's a big deal and we go to war, then we go to war and we obliterate, okay? And yes, children die. Yes, women die. It happens. That's what war is. If we believe that we're in a position to fight a war and we need to fight that war, then that's how we do it. And we don't do it as a vote through Congress. We do it as a vote, a national vote. That's my opinion. Why not should the people who have to go fight the war be able to vote for the decision to fight the war? We should just put a guy up on a pedestal, send him up to Washington, and he can vote away the lives of our children? You never know which way a war is going to go. You never know which way a war is going to go. See, our government has one core problem. It hasn't created, actually it's our world in general, it hasn't created such hurdles against war that would make it almost impossible. There are ways you could do that, right? There are ways you can make war so incredibly arduous that it would be a last result, and that's what it should be. There's nothing more horrible on this earth than war. The battle of men and women pitted against one another based on borders or resources or what have you. But here we are. Here we are. Babies in the back seats, driving to work, driving home from work, whatever it is. The future of our nation. And we've seen Trump's ego show its ugly head. And some people are saying that Bannon was the person who was keeping them off of Russia. Some people say Bannon was speaking a little sense into them, and now that he's been gone, who knows? Maybe the gloves come off, and maybe we find out that Donald Trump isn't as much of a buddy of Putin's as the press has completely, said that he was. I don't know, folks. What I can tell you is this is serious. This is real. This is why we prepare. War is horror. jwrights.com. Are you launching a survival blog? Do you have a preparedness product or service that you want to get to market? Use jwrights.com and we'll create unique content for you written by yours truly. This is my freelance website. You've come to know me. Trust me. Visit jwrights.com for your survival and preparedness freelance writing needs. I do infographics, white papers, ebooks. Visit jwrights.com. So we're on the doorstep of war with one of the greatest militaries on the planet. There's no getting around that. No matter what you want to say about Russia, they have one of the most powerful militaries on the planet. Economically, they're not by any stretch a superpower. But why war? Why drone strikes? Why this idea that now, all of a sudden, it's an issue? Civil War has been going on for 4 years? Now all of a sudden someone gets upset over a video on the internet and it's time to send drone strikes. And this is the reactionary issues that I didn't want to see out of this president. These knee-jerk reactions that you can't bankrupt your way out of, right? You can't swindle your way out of this type of thing. If it happens and we go to war, then things get real bad real fast. But I don't just want to talk about that today. There are other topics on my mind. One of them was some news that came across the wire yesterday, right? Some news that came across about ICE and the work that ICE is doing. And I know people hear the word ICE and they get scared. They get nervous. Oh, I don't know about this. I don't know about this ICE business. They're taking good American people and they're putting them away. They're deporting them even though they're illegal. And I understand, it's just like anything else. Not all illegal aliens are created equal. But what we've seen for the last 8 years, was the handcuffing of these organizations and these opportunities to get the bad people out of the country. That's what we saw. That's what we watched. We watched the handcuffing of these agencies. We cried for them to fix something, but we handcuffed them so they couldn't do it. Well, yesterday as I was driving around doing what I do, picking up children, these types of things, my new life here, what I found was a raid, or several raids, across my state of Virginia. Right across my state of Virginia, ICE has been hard at work, just as they have been across the nation, now that they've been allowed to do what they do. Now that they've been allowed to do the job that they need to do, which is to deport people that aren't supposed to be here. Blasphemy, I understand. Well, 80-some people have been deported from my state. And it may sound like small pennies, right? It might sound like a small victory. But most of them were convicted, okay? Most of these people were already convicted. Some had warrants for deportation out for them. I'm telling you this because this stuff doesn't make it to the nightly news. You know that. ICE is hard at work. They've thrown almost 90 criminal illegals out of our nation, just from Virginia. And who's going to sleep better at night? Yours truly is going to sleep better at night. And you know what? The sad thing is, if those people leave behind children, if those people leave behind families, I'm sorry to say it. No, I'm not sorry to say it. No, I'm not sorry to say it at all, frankly. You have the freedom to make decisions in your life that both affect you and the people around you. It's not my fault. It's not my wife's fault. It's not my children's fault. It's not my in-laws' fault that guy made a bad decision and his kids have to suffer. There's only one person to take the blame for it. There's only one person to take the blame for it. We pay enough. We pay enough for people who need help in our nation, don't you think? Don't you think? I'm not sitting on a pile of money. Every week when I get paid as a business owner in this nation now, I take 30% of that money and I stow it away for an opportunity when I have to pay the taxes. And it wouldn't be such a big deal. It wouldn't be such a big deal if these taxes went where I wanted them to go. But it does become a big deal when these taxes go to people who are here illegally and, moreover, to people who are criminals. There is an epidemic of opiates in this nation that is killing more people than you can even imagine. And I can tell you right now, there's no opiates growing in my backyard. But I do know where they are growing. And we're paying for the people who come from those nations and probably some of the people who peddle those drugs to our citizens. This is the reality. If you come to I Am Liberty, you come for reality. And that's what I can give you. I can't give you anything else. Okay? That's just what the reality is. ICE is doing their job. They're doing it well. Because they've been allowed to do it. Don't you understand? They've been allowed to do it. Now, yes, as a child, there are things that are shocking and terrifying about a man breaking into your home, raiding your home, taking your father out in handcuffs. And it's a sad thing when a child has to be sat down and his mother has to tell him that his father was a loser, a criminal. But hopefully that changes the child for the better, and hopefully that child says, I'm never going to do it to my kids. I'm never going to do it to my own children. I'm never going to put them through this. And that's the best we can hope for. But as Americans and as the American nation on a whole, we can't shoulder the burden of the whole world. It's just impossible. You want to see people snap. I can tell you that's an easy way to get it done. It's to try and shoulder the burden of the whole entire world. And that's the Syria issue. Same thing. Right? All of a sudden there's a burden. There's a burden of these small children suffering, writhing for oxygen as the sarin gas kills them. If you haven't seen the video, don't watch it. It's terrible. But it's reality. It's reality. And it's a reality that we can make one decision, and we can't make this crazy mix of decisions. Either we involve ourselves and we end the conflict swiftly and we choose a side, or we don't involve ourselves and we move on. And in doing so, we agree to the fact that women and children are going to die on the other side of the world. Is there a confluence on the two topics? There is. It's there. The ICE issue and the Syrian war. Why? What is it? I don't know. If I wanted to think about it, I could probably get there. But I know there's a confluence of issues. Right? There's a story within the story, like there always is. But I don't think I feel like exploring that. We see an uncorrupted government agency, right? ICE. An agency that was given the ability to do what it was supposed to do. And you see how successful it can be. Then you see a wholly corrupted leadership within the military that wants to see war. We see representatives that know they're going to make money off of a great war. Oh, we'll make money. And their kids, they don't have to worry about them. They won't go to war. Right? They're the Prince Harrys of the group. They won't go to war. Still, we put other children and other people's children at risk. I've got a pit bull staring at me right now, and he is just dying to bark at something. He's like exploding from the face with the desire to find someone to bark at. He's just dying for it. Go get him. Go get him. Yeah, I'm a little sore today. I did a double workout yesterday. One with the wife, one with the werewolf, and I'm paying for it a little bit. I'm paying. Can I come down? Can I come down off the high, the aggro, the maniac? Come down off the talks of war and the things of that nature? Because, see, in my right hand, I'm holding the phone that's recording the podcast, and all the anger is spilling out of me. And in my left hand, I have a child who's walking up and down the steps, having a ball. But this is what I talk for, This is why I do this. For these creatures, these little beings that have no say in this war. They have no say in the drone strike. They have no say in the illegal aliens coming into their country. But guess what? They'll reach a certain age when they come to realize what their reality is. Okay, this is my reality. I live in a third world version of America because we couldn't stem the tide of criminals flowing in and bringing drugs in along with them. And I live in a war-torn nation that has been beaten to death because they decided that one day they had to fight the world's wars and the next day they had to be isolationists, and they never took a solid position. And that's more dangerous than taking the wrong position, in my opinion. But this is the world that we live in now. And this is why so many people, believe it or not, whether they want to admit it or not, gardening's up 300% over the last 3 years. I'm sorry, no, community gardening alone is up 300% over the last 3 years. That's not backyard gardening. That's up even more. Why do you think that is? Food Network? You think that's Food Network? Or do you think that's the fact that people get it? People get it, but they're afraid to be referred to as preppers because of what Nat Geo did to us all. Right? The massacre that Nat Geo applied to the prepper movement early on made people so afraid to admit what they really do because of possible ridicule and things of that nature. That they're doing it anyway. They're just doing it under strict operational security and assuring that they don't tell anyone and assuring that no one knows for fear of ridicule. In other words, our nation can be so shallow sometimes in the people therein that they'd rather avoid ridicule than be prepared to keep their family safe in the events of a disaster. You just have no idea the leaps I've made as a man since starting this show almost 5 years ago. The changes that have happened, the benefits, untold benefits, changed my life, my children's life, my wife's life, my in-laws, my family, my extended family, my friends. All has changed due to this. But it's looked down upon. Why? Dependency. Beautiful dependency that is like shackles. You know, when you make a dedication and you make a commitment to living a sustainable lifestyle and a self-reliant and independent lifestyle, chains just begin to fall away. When you make a commitment to diversify your income, again, more chains fall away. And you figure out, I don't need a big job with a big boss over my head to make a living. I don't need it. I don't need someone to tell me what to do. I don't need it. We have freelancing opportunities like crazy. We have interconnected markets on the internet that are so vast. You basically have a market of billions, is what you have. A market of billions. And all you need to survive if you're a working middle class man or woman is a small, almost minuscule percentage of those billions. What do you really need? Eliminate debt in any way that you can. Step number 1. Anyway, 401k, forget about that 401k. Cash that 401k out and get those monthly bills off your back right now. Trust me, it's the best move I ever made. It's the best move I ever made. In the long run, you'll be saving more money. Trust me. In the long run, you'll be saving more money. And you'll be happier. Don't you understand? What's 10, 20 years in retirement if you spend 60 years in misery to build up the money? 401k, cash it out, pay off your debts. Do it right now. Do it today. Do it yesterday. Get rid of everything. Everything that you can muster. Even if that 401k goes down to $2,000. Even if it goes down to $0. Start from scratch. Start over. Just start the whole thing over. And then find a few ways that you can make a living. Doesn't have to be one way. Find a few ways to make a living. You know, figure out what can you write, what can you say, what can you make, what can you do, can you consult? And there he goes. He finally got his wish. Can you consult? Can you give a hand? Can you give a helping hand? What can you do? How can you create income? What can you sell? Can you sell your own services? Can you resell products that you already own? There are a million opportunities out there. Can you blog? Can you have a YouTube channel? If you can have a unique YouTube channel that's got some pretty decent quality, you can make a living. Or at least a portion of a living. See, that's the thing. You're not here to make a full living off of one thing. You make 10,000 here, 10,000 there, 10,000 this thing, 10,000 that thing. Do that 5-6 times. And if you're working middle class, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Right? You're going to be fine. You're going to make money. You're going to make a good living, a decent living. And more importantly than any of that money, you're going to have freedom. You're going to have a life of freedom where you can see the children that you've gave birth to. You can see the children that you're putting through this life. You can watch them on a daily basis. You know what I'm doing right now? I'm picking weeds out of my garden. And I'm watching my son walk around with the nozzle of the hose, you know, the sprayer. And he's shooting imaginary creatures with it. You know what I'd be doing if I didn't make the moves that I made? I would be depressed and working. And maybe I mean I even had a great job. I'm not gonna lie. I had a great job. But I'd never have this type of satisfaction at that job. It's just that's just the truth. I'd never have this type of freedom. And that's what this life is about. You know, take advantage of technology, take advantage of what is around you, and make some money. Make some money on your own. My friend put it the best, right? It's a way I've thought about it, and I've thought about it for a long time. But yesterday I was talking to one of my close friends, and he really summed it up about as good as you can sum it up. And he said to me, Jim, long friends that have been in my life for a very long time call me Jim. You have to understand. It's school name. No, it's not actually. My school name and my business name, if you will, has always been James. But to those who know me pretty close, they call me Jim. To those who know me very close, they call me Jimmy. Too close, most of them. He said to me, Jim, he's opening a business, right? He's opening a business that he's been working on for years, and it's one of those beautiful American dream stories that they tell you don't exist anymore. His is an American dream story that is almost mythical in this nation through the eyes of the media. Every other day you read a story. Is the American dream dead? Is the American dream over? Is there any more American dream? We're talking, and he says to me, Jim, I've been fighting other people's battles for years, fighting other people's war for years. I'm ready to fight my own war. And what he meant is he's been working for other people's companies, making them money, dealing with issues, fixing issues for years, 10, 15 years probably. And like so many Americans, you get to the point where you decide, it's time for me to put this energy into my own life. Period. It's time for me to put this energy into my own career, my own world, my own life, and to make this world work for me for a change. And I encourage you, man, every day that you wait is another day wasted. I encourage you today, get the debt paid down. Forget about retirement if you're in your 30s. Yeah, I said it. I said forget about retirement. Get the debt paid down. You could die tomorrow. What happens if the Tsar Bomba, are you familiar with the Tsar Bomba, the massive nuclear bomb that Russia has? It's the biggest one on the planet. If that drops on your hometown tomorrow, a lot of good 15 grand, 20 grand, 60 grand, 100 grand in the 401k is going to do you. But I can tell you, you pay off those debts, and all of a sudden the world opens up. You get rid of $10,000 worth of debt, and all of a sudden the world and the possibilities open up. You're strapped right now. You can't leave your job. You've got $10,000 worth of debt on top of a mortgage, on top of a car payment, on top of all these other things. There's no leaving your job. There's no making change. The debt is your shackles. And I'd say by any means necessary. I'd say by any means necessary, you get the freedom that comes from eliminating that debt. You do it today. Call the financial company today, man. Look, I'm only talking from experience, all right? These are the decisions that I made. And come 20 years from now, maybe I find out they were the wrong ones, but I can tell you right now, listen to what I'm listening to. Right now, I'm hanging out with the coolest guy in the world, okay? You can't do it. Only I can do it. Nobody else can hang out with him but me, okay? It's because I've made these decisions. Do something. Do something today.